Hello everyone. Here I would like to share with you about the teaching documents within the concept of Merdeka Belajar, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, hopefully you are in a good condition, you are ready to refresh your mind about this. I'm not going to teach you about this because I'm so sure that you have heard about this concept. I'm sure you have read about this, you have learned about the teaching documents, and I'm sure you are ready to do your teaching practices at schools. So again, the purpose of my presentation is just to refresh your mind about the concept of Merdeka Belajar and the curriculum and also the lesson plan that you need to prepare before you do the teaching practices. You have known all of the theories. Now it's time to recall it back, yeah, and to be ready in using them. Okay, so the concept of Merdeka Belajar was introduced by our Minister of Education and Culture in 2019. Yeah, since then, almost every day we heard about this term, Merdeka Belajar. Almost everyone talk about this, and especially in our university. Yeah, we always hear the term Kampus Merdeka and also Merdeka Belajar. Okay, so I'm sure some of you knew this well, and perhaps some of you didn't read the information about this concept. But it's okay. Today we are going to discuss this um, in a deeper way, yeah. And then the concept of Merdeka Belajar is seen as a big policy to create better and more advanced education in Indonesia. Yeah, so this is a big policy, the great changes in our educational system. Why? Because now the learners are given the freedom, independence, and autonomy to be, yeah, to be learning everything that they like. Okay, next. So, what do you think about the reasons of the introduction of the concept of Merdeka Belajar? Why this concept is introduced? Do you know why? So if we look at the history, or if we read the reference about this concept, one of the reasons is that Indonesian students had problems in mathematics and literacy. So in PISA 2019, I'm sure PISA, so this is a kind of international competition to assess or to evaluate students' academic performances across the nation, across the different countries, so that we can put the students' performance in the ranked from the highest to the lowest, yeah, among different countries. And you know what happened? From 79 countries, Indonesia got number 74. So it means Indonesia is on the sixth ranked from the bottom. So with this kind of achievement, there is a need to change the educational system. So a new focus in education should be made. That's why the Ministry of Education issued the policy that now we need to focus on the minimum competence. So in Bahasa, they said we need to focus on kemampuan minimum. And this involves the focus on the literacy, numeracy, and also the characters building. Okay, let's look at those three things one by one. Now, in our educational system, when we are focusing on the students' literacy, then we need to measure not only students' reading ability, but also we need to measure their ability in analyzing the reading text and understanding the concept behind the text. So when you do your teaching practices in the future, try not to measure not only their score in reading, but also try to see their ability, evaluate their ability, whether they can analyze the reading text or not, and whether they understand the concept behind the text or not. Okay, that's about the literacy. So we need to focus on this because you are teaching the language, you are teaching the English language to them. Okay, the second one is numeracy. Sorry, I made the typo here. So in this idea, so we are not only looking at the student score at math subjects, but we need to see as well the students' ability in implementing the numerical concepts in their real life context. So, for example, if the students are good at calculation or they are good at calculating some numbers, then we also need to know whether they can manage their budgeting, their finance in the real life or not. That's just an example, a very simple example. Or they can try to calculate the shopping activities and the budgeting, for example. Okay, that's about the numeracy. And then the last one, the minister has introduced the term survey character. Okay, so here I would like to say that we are focusing on the character building or students' personality. So this is not a test, but it evaluates how the values of morality, religion, and Pancasila have been implemented by the learners. So those three things become the new emphasis in the concept of Merdeka Belajar. Okay, next, I'm sure that you have heard about the four main policies within Merdeka Belajar. Yeah, so number one, this is a very a very good very good news for everyone, I think, for students, for parents. Why? Because the Ministry of Education has omitted the national examination. So national examination will be replaced by what we call minimum competency assessment and character survey. So there will be no more national exam done in Indonesia, but it is replaced by what we call minimum competency assessment. And this kind of assessment is not done at the third year of the student's study, but the assessment will be done at grade 4, 8, and 11. Why? Because the assessment is expected to give the feedback, and the feedback will be used to make some improvement for the learning processes before the student completes their study or before they graduate. So in elementary school, if student finishes at grade 6 and the assessment is done at grade 4, it means they are still having 2 years before they graduate. So the teachers and school can try to improve what is missing in the students' competence. And also in junior high school, the assessment is done at grade 8, This means that students still have one more year to study, and 1 year can be used to improve students' ability, to improve student performance. Similarly, in senior high school or in vocational school, then after the assessment is done at grade 11, then at grade 12, the teachers and students can work together to improve the students' skills, for example, students' mastery of a particular material, and also to improve the students' competence in general. Okay, so that's the first main policy. So the second policy deals with the school exam. So we know that we have what we call Ujian Sekolah Berstandar Nasional. We call it USBN, and this school exam will be managed by individual schools. So the ministry gives the school freedom to choose the assessment forms like portfolio, final project, and so on and so forth. So in your teaching practices later on, you may find that different schools may apply different forms of assessment. Okay, so they have the freedom to create the assessment forms. So perhaps the practices that you are going to do will be different from the practices that your friends are going to do, because you are having the teaching practices at two different schools. But you need to know about the basic idea that now the ministry gives the school freedoms and independence to choose the assessment which is suitable with the situation, condition, and the ability of the students. Okay, the next main policy is the simplification of the lesson plan. So I think this is another good news for you. Why? Because you don't need to write a longer lesson plan. So even the minister said that 1-page lesson plan is sufficient. So we try to simplify or shorten our lesson plan nowadays. So what is the idea behind this? Why do we need to simplify our lesson plan? Why do we need to make our lesson plan shorter? Why? Yeah, because it is expected that if we simplify the administrative tasks, then we can have more time so that we can prepare our teaching and learning activities, and also we have time to improve our competence, especially as teachers. But in practice, I don't know what happened with the teachers, and I don't know whether you also will use the extra time to improve your competence or not. So teachers can improve the competence through joining workshop, for example, seminar, for example, trainings, and so on and so forth. Even you can also share experience to the colleague and learn from their experiences too. And this counts as improving teachers' competence, I guess. Okay, so number 3 is the good news for all teachers, including us. Okay, next, number 4 deals with the admission for the new students. So now the term system Yunasi is very popular in our community. So the schools applies the zone systems for the admission of the new students, and the local government has the right to decide the techniques for implementing this policy. I think now students from similar area with the school can apply and register to the school. The closer the distance, the better will be for the admission. Okay, so there is no more term such as favorite school, because everybody can go to the school in their area. Okay, so this is what we call zonasi in bahasa. Okay, next. Okay, in this opportunity as well, I'm going to share with you. I would like to refresh your mind about the real meaning of Merdeka Belajar, the basic concept, and also the implementation at schools. Perhaps we are going to look at the implementation in the university as well, just to give you some idea, even though the implementation may be the same with the implementation of the concept of Merdeka Belajar at schools. Okay, so again, I'm not going to teach you about this all. I'm going to just help you to remember. I'm sure you know about all of this information. Okay, so if we look at the word Merdeka Belajar, then Merdeka means independent, independent, and then Belajar means learning. So do you agree that Merdeka Belajar can be translated or interpreted as the independence or freedom in learning? Yes or no? So Merdeka means being independent, Belajar means learning. So we can say that the concept of Merdeka Belajar means that there is the independence or freedom in our learning. So I personally agree with this idea, because everyone has special needs in their learning. Okay, so that's why we need the freedom to learn what we like, what we want, and especially what we need. Okay, so in our university, in our campus, we often hear the term Kampus Merdeka. So in Kampus Merdeka, we know that the institution has the autonomy and flexibility, especially in conducting the teaching and learning activities, so that they can create the learning culture which promotes the innovative learning, which gives the students freedom in learning, which can promote the learning which is appropriate to students' needs, and also to promote the learning which supports and promotes the students' autonomy, promotes what the students are good at, and improve students in improving their talents. So this is the idea of Kampus Merdeka. So the institution has the autonomy and flexibility in conducting the teaching and learning activities, so that the learnings become the good environment for the students to innovate, to fulfill their needs, to develop their talents. Okay? Now, Merdeka Belajar or Kemerdekaan Belajar at university and schools. So similar to what happened in the university, at schools or any other educational institution. The concept of Merdeka Belajar means that the educational institution make the effort to support the freedom and autonomy of the students and the teacher in their educational institution, so that students can really have the freedom in learning the subjects that they need, that they like, that they want. So the basic idea here is that schools now should make the effort so that students can have the freedom in learning the subjects that they like. So in the university, for example, we have what we call elective subjects or courses. So elective subjects are the subjects which are offered to the students. You are free to choose or not to choose them. If you like it, you can take it. If you don't like it, you don't need to take them. So only if you like it, then you can take them. You can learn the subject. You can study the subject. If you don't want to take it, that's okay. No problem. You can choose the other subject that you like. Okay, now in Merdeka Belajar, in the system, of Merdeka Belajar, then we apply what we call student-centered learning. And then in this approach, in this type of learning, the teachers, so you, when you are doing the teaching practices at schools, you need to give the challenges and opportunities for the students so that they can learn and they can develop their creativity, capacity, personality. Okay? And don't forget to pay attention to what they need. Remember, student needs are very important. When you are presenting the materials, you need to take into consideration everything that your students need. So if students' needs are fulfilled, are met, then they will feel happy in learning. They will have the motivation because everything that you present to them is everything that they are going to need, everything that they need. So if they have the good motivation, it is likely that their learning will be effective and successful. Once the learning is effective and successful, then they will have even greater motivation to learn in the following session, the following weeks, or in learning the next materials. Okay, so remember about this. I think I once have explained about this to you when we are talking about ESP. Okay, then another thing which is emphasized in the concept of Merdeka Belajar is that teachers should promote the students' independence, especially in constructing the knowledge. Okay, so these are some basic concepts in Merdeka Belajar. Okay, now how can the learning take place within the concept of Merdeka Belajar? So within this concept, students are not only learning from the classroom. Teachers are not only learning from the teacher's explanation, but students can learn from the real problems in their surroundings, in their environment. They can learn from their social interaction with friends, with other people, with the family. They can learn through the collaboration, or they can learn independently and try to learn through what we call self-management. And then they can also learn from some work requirements. So students are not only learning from the explanation given by the teacher, but they can learn from any other things. Yeah, they can learn from their real life problems. They can learn from their interaction with other people. They can collaborate with their friends, yeah, and so on and so forth. And you need to, yeah, see this as the opportunity for you in doing your teaching practices, especially um, to innovate the teaching and learning processes. So you can present some materials related to the real problems happening in our society, for example, especially during the spread of COVID-19, for example. So try to link what you present in the class and what happened in the real life. So this will be very interesting for the students and for you as the teacher as well. Okay, next. Okay, in one of the article that I read, later on you can see in the bibliography, then there is a lecturer who said that the concept of Merdeka Belajar is similar to progressivism. Sorry, I'm also made a typo here. Progressivism. So, what is progressivism? Have you ever heard about this? So, progressivism came from pragmatism, which was introduced by William James and also John Dewey. And this concept maximizes the human potentials in their effort to solve their life problems. So do you think Merdeka Belajar and progressivism is similar? Similar or different? Okay, let's look at both concepts closer. Okay, so progressivism within the philosophy of education aims to create students who have the capacity and strengths to face any problems in their lives, along with the ability to adapt to the changes of the social lives. Okay, one more time. So, progressivism within the philosophy of education wants to create students who have the capacity and strengths to face any problems happening in their lives. And then progressivism also wants to create the students who have the ability to adapt to the changes of the social life. Yeah, so like in our situation now, in our current situation, we are in the pandemic situation. So there are so many changes happening recently. Okay, and as the teacher, yeah, you need to create the students who can be adaptive to this kind of life changes. We need to adapt to what happened in our society, and this is very important. Otherwise, we will be left behind. So, like with the growth and development of IT, if we cannot follow, then we will be left behind. So, like within the spread of COVID-19, if we don't follow, yeah, the up-to-date information, the current information about this, then perhaps we don't know much about how to handle this situation, how to, yeah, keep our body and mind healthy within this pandemic situation. Okay, And then within this progressivism as well, teachers should create active and creative citizens. So it is expected that students are not only active in the class, are not only creative in the class, but even after they graduate, they can be the active and creative citizens as well. Okay, because if they are facing some problems, I think they will be so creative in finding the solution or in fixing the problems, like us, like you. Yeah, the more problems you have, I think the more creative you are. Why? Because when you are having the problems, you think much. You think the way how to solve your problems. You are not just sitting, you are not just sleeping, you are not just, yeah, being so silent, but I'm sure you are all thinking on how to fix the problem, how you solve the problem. Okay, so because you are so familiar with thinking creatively, then after you graduate from school, yeah, you can be the active and creative citizens. So this is one of your tasks in your teaching practices, how to promote, yeah, the students creativity, yeah, and the students active learning, so that at the end, after they graduate from schools, after they leave the school, they can still be active and creative citizens. Okay, and yeah, similarly important, progressivism looks at human multiple intelligences. So the education should develop not only mathematics intelligence but also multidiscipline intelligences. So I think you all agree that everyone, yeah, is smart. All students, yeah, students are smart. The problem is just because we don't know what students are really good at, so we claim or we judge or we assume if they are not good at something, we assume that they are not smart. So now we need to open our mind. We need to see from different perspective that every single student has unique capability, unique intelligence. They are all smart. And our task is to try to find out their real potentials, their talents, their intelligence, and try to help everyone to develop their skills, their intelligence, and try not to rank them based on one mastery of a particular subject. So we need to start build a good perspective about this kind of idea that everyone has unique ability, everyone has particular intelligence, not only mathematics. Some people are good at mathematics, some people are good at language or linguistics, some people are very good at music, and so on and so forth. So everybody should be seen as having the potentials, talents, ability, intelligence, and this is very important for you as the teachers. Looking at a human various or multiple intelligences will make you even wiser. Yeah, you will be so wise if you look at your students through this kind of perspective. Yeah, why? Because you will appreciate every single students in your class when you know that they have different talents. They are all good at different subjects. Okay, and you need to appreciate that. Yeah, okay. So try to see this and try to be fair in giving the evaluation. Now, according to John Dewey, education should be democratic. Do you agree with this idea? Democratic. How democratic is democratic? Okay, so democratic, I think the idea of being democratic is to involve, yeah, the students in the decision making in the class. So try to hear the students' feedback, the students' opinion, and that they should not be too dominant. Yeah, democratic means we are giving the students the freedom, independence in learning so that they can develop their true potentials or true talents. Now, what is the similarity between progressivism and Merdeka Belajar? So, in the article that I have read, it is mentioned that both the progressivism and Merdeka Belajar emphasizes the independence or freedom and autonomy of the educational institution or schools to explore students' or learners' ability and potentials, because learners naturally have various kinds of ability and potentials. So again, the keywords here is we have the independence of freedom and autonomy of the schools. So schools have the independence, freedom, autonomy to explore students or learners' ability and potentials. Remember, we need to have the perspective, use the perspective, yeah, and try to accept the fact that students have different kinds of ability and potentials, and it is our task to help them to keep developing their ability and talents as well as the potentials. Okay, now what about the basic principles in teaching? So what are the implementation in the classrooms? If we are teaching during the era of Merdeka Belajar, so we should not be too dominant. Remember, we are implementing what we call a student-centered approach. So we should not be too dominant in our class. We should serve as facilitators. And then teachers should help students learn actively. So in your class, whether it is online or offline teaching, try to involve the students actively. Okay, they shouldn't be passive learners. They need to be active in their own learning. And then as a teacher, you also need to motivate your students so that they can grow as independent learners. Try to motivate your students. Okay, and then teachers are open to, so teachers, all of us need to be open to social realities, and we also need to be adaptive towards the growing knowledge. So what does this mean? Why do we need to be open to social realities? And why do we need to be adaptive towards the growing knowledge or changes or amendment? So we need to be so adaptive, because new information, new knowledge sometimes is introduced, and perhaps what we believe in the past may not always be true in the present time or in the current situation. So we need to be flexible in seeing the realities. So perhaps our knowledge that we obtained in the past is now being replaced with our new knowledge to face the problems in our current life, for example. Now, what about the methods? In terms of the methods, within the concept of Merdeka Belajar, we do not only focus on the book. So as a teacher, you don't only focus on the book. Don't focus only on the book, but try to use various learning sources or resources. Book is only one kind of learning sources. So you can use any other materials like authentic materials, audiovisual materials. You can design, you can adapt the materials, you can use the video from YouTube. So not only textbook. And then you also need to avoid the memorization. Why? Because memorization makes student passive. So don't emphasize memorization, as memorization makes student passive. So I personally think that memorization is needed to learn a particular material. So like grammar, perhaps some students cannot really understand the formula, but in order for them to create or make grammatically correct sentences, they need to memorize the formula. For example, in the past tense, I need to use verb to, for example, and if I'm using the modal, for example, can, we, must, shall, will, then after the modal I need to use verb 1 and not the other verb, for example. So for some students, memorization helps, like for learning vocabulary, perhaps memorization is necessary here. So sometimes to learn a particular word, the synonym, the antonym, we need to memorize the words. But of course, we cannot teach students to memorize everything. So we cannot emphasize memorization here when we are teaching in the era of Merdeka Belajar. So it can be used, but not for teaching every single material. Try to be selective when you are using memorization and when you are not. Okay, and then interesting for the C, don't use any physical punishment. Okay, although you are teaching online, and you are not going to punish your students, but if in the future you are teaching in the normal situation, in the safer situation, and students come to school again, don't use any physical punishment. Physical punishment is not recommended. Okay, and I think this applies not only to you as a teacher at schools, but also to you as future parents, parents in the future. I think as parents, we should not use any physical punishments. We don't want to hurt somebody else. If we are giving the punishment, then it should be a constructive feedback. The form is constructive feedback. The punishment which can help them to grow even much better than before. Okay, that's about methods. Now we are looking at the students. Okay, so in the era of Merdeka Belajar, students are seen as the main subject into education. So in the past, they were becoming the object of the education. Now, you as the teacher, as the English teacher, should see your learners as the main subject in the classroom. The main subject means that they are the ones who are learning. They are the ones who should be active. And students are seen as unique and having multiple intelligences. Okay, students are given the chance to think independently and critically. Okay, train them to think independently, teach them to think critically. Okay, and then students should be involved actively in the teaching and learning activities. Students can learn in a natural way, and they can learn through their experiences. Students can learn inside and outside the class as well, and this is what we call educative learning. So in the concept of Merdeka Belajar, you need to look at the students through these ways. They are the main subject in the learning. They are unique. They are having multiple intelligences. You give them the chance to think independently and critically. You involve them actively in the decision making, in the teaching and learning activities. You hear their voices. You hear what they want. You hear the feedbacks, the criticism, from them. Okay, and then give them the permit to learn outside of the classroom. So this is very important for you to know, because the basic principles will help you later on in creating or designing the teaching and learning activities. Okay, next, what about the institution or schools? So within the concept of Merdeka Belajar, schools or any other educational institution should be seen as the laboratory. Do you know the laboratory? Yeah, laboratory. Perhaps you imagine the places for you to do some experiment, right? Okay, so laboratory here means the place which can change the students into a better person, better citizen, from bad to good, from good into better, So this is what we call a laboratory. Okay, through the process of education, then we try to help the students to change into a better versions of themselves. Okay, help them to grow as a better person, better students with better personality, okay, with a good mastery of the subjects, okay, and this is a hard job. Sometimes we as the teacher, we also need to change ourselves into a better version, our better version, to the best version of us. Okay, not only students but also teachers as well. And then schools should work together with the parents to make the learning activities successful. Yes, this is true, especially in the pandemic. So with the spread of COVID-19, and the schools really need parental supports, so that the teaching and learning done at home by the students can run successfully. Okay, so the promotion of blended learning before the spread of COVID-19. Now, in the concept of Merdeka Belajar, because students can learn inside and outside of the classroom, then there is a promotion of what we call blended learning. So students are expected to be able to learn outside the class and not only listen to the explanation given by the teacher in the classroom. Okay, I think I remember with this rapid spread of COVID-19, our schools were closed in March, I think. Okay, March. So the concept of Merdeka Belajar was introduced in 2019, and then the blended learning system is also promoted. But what happened is that, not many of us really know the basic idea of blended learning. So blended learnings means combining teacher-led learning and online learning. So we have both face-to-face meeting in the classrooms, and we also have the online learning. So we are combining these two activities. Okay, next, there are some advantages of the blended learning system. Okay, among the advantages are that blended learning can be seen as practices for students to use internal and external learning resources, especially by using IT. So students are not only learning from teacher, they can use any learning resources outside of the classroom. They can use the internet to Google some of the information, knowledge. Okay, they can learn from somebody else's experiences. Okay, so the next advantages are that blended learning promotes lifelong learning, develops knowledge, technology, and also innovation. And of course, the use of blended learning can improve the 21st century competence. Okay, so as teachers, we need to equip the students with the competence needed in the current era, in the 21st century. Now, when is learning called as blended learning? Do you know when? Okay, so I copied this information from one of the reference I put in the bibliography. So I have the table here. I present the percentage of the online teaching and learning activity. So from 0, 1 to 29, 30 to 79, 80 and above 80. So if the online learning, is never done or 0% here, so the method of teaching is called offline. So learning materials are obtained in the classroom. If you are using 1% to 29% of the online system, so the learning happens in the class, but you are start uploading the tasks and the materials in the web, then the method is called web teaching. And then if you are putting 30% to 79% of the teaching into online system, then it is called blended learning. So the learning takes place inside and outside the class. The materials, the task, explanation, examples can be accessed online at any time by students. And the teaching can be done via Moodle, for example, Google Class, Skype, and so on and so forth. Okay, then if you are putting the teaching like 80% and above through online system, then the method of learning is online learning. The method of teaching is online teaching. So this means that all learning is done online and there is no more face-to-face meeting. Okay, next, what happened in the early pandemic situation? So remember, in March, almost all schools were closed and online learning is used, and teachers have to be IT literate. Students should have the facilities for learning at home, and remember, parental supports are highly needed. So online learning has been used since the early spread of COVID-19 in our country. So what have been done and what have happened so far? So again, online learning has been done. due to the spread of COVID-19. I mean here, the online learning has been done in a wider educational settings, almost in every single educational institution in our country. Okay, however, we need to accept that various problems emerge. So on the 7th of August 2020, our Ministry of Education stated that there are various problems in the online learning. And the problems consist of teachers' problem, parents' problems, students' problems, and also some issues related to the facilities. Okay, so we are going to see the problems one by one, and we start with teachers' problems. So in the implementation of online teaching, the use of online learning, teachers have difficulties in managing online learning, and they tend to focus on the completion of the curriculum. So even the teachers, even the experienced teachers have difficulties in managing the online learning. So hopefully this information can help you prepare yourself so that later on you can avoid similar problems. And then the second, the teaching time is reduced. So teachers are unable to meet the standard teaching time. Yes, for the teachers, they have the requirement to complete a particular standard of teaching time. So with this kind of online learning, they are unable to complete the standard teaching time. And then teachers also have difficulties in communicating with students' parents. So in online learning, all learning is done at home. So parents need to support their children. Parents need to provide the facilities needed by the students. And good communication, good relationship between the teacher and also the parents is necessary, is needed. However, it is sometimes hard for the teachers to really interact, to really communicate with the students' parents. And especially because schools are not advised to invite parents coming to school. If, for example, they want to share or to inform the parents what to do in this kind of online learning, okay, what can be done is that school send the letter informing the students that now we have the new system of learning, we have online learning, we have some changes here and there, and these changes and that changes. So only through letter and announcement. But then the real communication is hard to be done. Okay, what about parents' problems? So during the pandemic, the pandemic situation, and during the implementation of online system, not all parents can accompany their children in learning due to some other responsibility. We all know that many parents need to work, they need to earn the living, and some other parents need to complete the domestic tasks. So not all parents can accompany their children in learning at home, in doing the homework and completing the assignments from the teachers. And the second one, parents have difficulties in motivating their children and in understanding the lesson. Some parents sometimes say that when they are motivating the students, the process of giving the motivation often end in the fight between the parents and the children. When parents say something, then students disagree and they are quarreling. So it happens in reality. So parents always say, yes, but my kids, my children obey teacher more than obeying me, for example. And then the teachers have difficulties in understanding the lesson. So sometimes when the teacher present the materials and the children do not really understand, they will ask the parents. But then sometimes parents are unable to offer helps to their children. Why? Because they have limited knowledge about the material. Sometimes the instructions are not clear for the students, so they don't know what to do. Parents also have the confusion about what to do. Sometimes the parents ask the teacher to clarify, to ask for some more information, detailed information about what their children should do at home. Okay, now we are going to look at students' problems. So the research findings show that students find it hard to concentrate when they learn at home. Perhaps it happened to you as well. Yeah, students find it hard to concentrate when they learn at home. So schools and universities are designed to create conducive learning, yeah, to provide good atmosphere for learning. But homes, yeah, different homes can have different atmosphere. Some homes are very noisy, some are so quiet. So not all homes can give the support for the teaching and learning activities. Yeah, so we can understand the situation. So if it is too noisy, of course it is hard for the students to concentrate. If there are so much noises, then of course it also hard to focus on the particular, yeah, task or explanation. Okay, and then students complain about the task given by the teachers, which they find too much and burdening. So in the use of online learning system, then there are times when almost all teachers give the assignments. Sometimes the lack of explanation, yeah, made the students feel that they only have tasks, they only have homework, they only have assignments, and they are not clear yet about the materials, and they think that the assignments given, yeah, make them feel being burdened. So the tasks are burdening, heavy for them to do. Okay, especially if the tasks are coming at the same times. Have you experienced that during the online learning? Perhaps yes. Yeah, almost every week you have assignments. Yeah, perhaps me, I also give you assignment regularly. Okay, so sorry if the assignment was burdening for you. Okay, the next problem, I think this is the worst problem. So student stress level and boredom increase due to the long-term isolation, which in longer term can result in anxiety and depression. So online learning can increase the students' stress level and boredom. Do you feel so? Did your stress level increase? Yeah, last semester? Did you feel bored as well? Okay, so I don't know, perhaps yes, perhaps no. But I hope that none of you got so depressed. Yeah, I don't want you to feel so stressed. Yeah, and being so bored. Now, now it's time for you to be the teachers and see whether as a teacher you can help the students to minimize the stress level, and we need your helps to avoid student boredom. Okay, next, Okay, so another problem deals with the learning access. So most of the learning is done through the use of IT. We need the phones, smartphones, handphones, laptops, and we need the internet. However, some of us perhaps uh, are unable to afford, yeah, the internet in our phones or houses. And even for some students, they have no electricity at homes, so the lack of learning access become a particular barrier or become a particular problem in the implementation of online learning system. And I think you need to be aware of this reality. This is real. If you read the news, there are some students who prefer to work so that they can earn some money to buy the smartphones, and some other students have to go to the neighbors' houses to borrow the handphones. And even they have handphones, sometimes they are not able to buy the um, the internet. Sorry, they are unable to pay the cost of the internet. Okay, so this becomes a particular problems which needs some solutions, of course. And there are some kind people in some areas who offer free internet for the students to do their learning, yeah, their online learning, to do the assignments at homes. But I don't know whether this also happens in Pekalongan or not. I don't know, but in my experience, in my class, when I wanted in the last semester, when I wanted to do what we call online session, and we are going to use Google Meet, and some students said that um, they couldn't join because of the internet and internet issue, and also their location is not good for uh, accessing the learning resources. They cannot connect to the internet, and so on and so forth. So various problems emerge, really emerge. Perhaps you also experience this kind of issue, or perhaps you look at your surrounding and you also find similar problems of the lack of learning access. Okay. Okay, similarly, the Minister of Education and Culture also mentioned that um, there are some negative effects of the long-term online schooling systems. So in the long term, the ministry is afraid that the negative effects can happen, uh, especially to the students. Why? Because if the online learning is done continuously, students can stop school. Perhaps they prefer to work and discontinue their study, and then there will be what we call loss of learning. So students are losing the learning opportunities. So this is why the learning, yeah, through online system is said as less effective, because sometimes when students are not really concentrating on their learning, then the learning is not effective. They are losing the chance of having effective learning. And then yeah, like I said before, students have less focus on the learning, their motivation is decreasing, their learning achievement is also decreasing. And next, yeah, I think this is a very bad effect, or what we call psychological effects. Students get stressed, bored, stuck due to their inability to go out or to meet friends, to meet the teachers. Okay, so during the pandemic situation, students, almost everyone are not allowed to go out without any real purposes. So when the schools are closed, students should stay at home. But if this happens for long and longer time, of course, student can get so stressed, bored, stuck. Okay. So now, what can be done? So the Ministry of Education and Culture has announced that they try to look at what best for the students' future. They will not sacrifice students' education. So now the ministry gives the approval for the opening of more schools. In the past, only the schools in the green zones, the safe area from COVID-19, so only small number of schools can open the schools, and students can learn at school by following some regulation related to the safety and health. Okay, but now they are approving the opening of schools in green and yellow zones. They said zona kuning can open the schools. However, there are some other requirements for the school to be opened. So the schools need the approval from the local government. They need the approval from the local government, from the school committee, as well as from the parents. If one of these parties said no, then schools cannot be opened. So approval from various parties, should be obtained before the schools can really be open. And even if everyone agrees that the school can be opened, then the school have to follow the checklist related to some health regulation. For example, they should provide some facilities for washing hands, for example. They should provide hand sanitizer, they should provide what and so on and so forth. So the ministry has the checklist already. And one of the best policy is that now the ministry also issues what we call curriculum darurat. So curriculum itself holds the key elements in an educational institution as it deals with the determination of the goals, content, and educational processes, which at the end decides the kind and quality of the graduates. So curriculum is basically the key elements in schools. Why? Because it determines the goals, the content, and also the educational processes happening in the schools. So it directs the schools. Okay. And generally, the curriculum consists of 4 main elements. Remember, what are they? So learning objectives, learning materials, learning strategies, and evaluation system. Okay. Based on the Constitution number 20, 2003, you can read here, curriculum is defined as seperangkat rencana dan pengaturan mengenai tujuan, isi, dan bahan pelajaran serta cara yang digunakan sebagai pedoman penyelenggaraan kegiatan pembelajaran untuk mencapai tujuan pendidikan tertentu. So it is a set of plan, and also the regulation about the goals, objectives, contents, okay, and also the method used, as a guide to conduct the teaching and learning activities to achieve a particular educational goal or objectives. Okay, now what about curriculum darurat? So curriculum darurat here refers to the reduction of basic competence for each subject so that the focus is on the essential competence. So there are, in the real curriculum, in the 2013 curriculum, there are so many basic competencies to be achieved by the students. However, in this pandemic situation, with the spread of COVID-19, then teachers, you all need to focus more on what we call competency essential. I said here as essential competence and the competency prasyarat. Okay, so the ministry allows the reduction of the basic competence. They suggest the reduction of basic competence, and this curriculum darurat will be implemented to the end of the academic year, so until the next year. Okay, so the curriculum darurat is expected to ease the learning during the pandemic. For teachers, now teachers have the simple guideline about the curriculum. Teaching burden is also reduced. Then teachers, you all can pay attention more in the important competence. Sorry, I made another typo here. So we need to focus on the most important competence. And then with this curriculum darurat, it helps the teacher to have better psychological condition. And then teachers are not required to fulfill the 24 hours teaching tasks per week. So this I think helps much the teacher, help the teachers much. Now for students are not required to achieve all curriculum objectives. So students are not being burdened by the requirements to achieve all of the curriculum objectives, and psychologically the students are in a better condition. Surely. Okay, and what about your teaching practices? So I suggest you to consult the schools about the policy during the pandemic. Try to find out the effectiveness of the teaching and learning which had been done. If it is effective, try to follow them. If it is not, try to offer some alternative. Follow all the principles of teaching explained previously. So we have talked about the basic principles in the era of Merdeka Belajar. Try to implement them in your teaching and learning activities. Try to mention them in the teaching documents, especially lesson plan. Implement them in the lesson plan. Try to help the school promote the cooperation among teachers, parents, students, and the schools. So that's what you need to do in your teaching practices. That's my personal advice to you. Yes, so the curriculum in the COVID-19 pandemic is the curriculum which pleases the student, teachers, and parents. So the curriculum is the curriculum which makes students, teachers, and parents happy. Okay. So the curriculum so far has been implemented in 3 different models of learning. So face-to-face learning, online learning, and also home visit. I think most schools conduct what we call online learning. But I think many schools also do what we call home visit, so that they send the teachers to students' houses and try to teach the students individually from home to home. So this is quite hard, I think, for the teachers, because they need to mobile and to visit every single students from home to home, which perhaps are in a far distance. So they just need to mobile, to be mobile. Okay, perhaps these models of learning also these 3 models of learning are also implemented in the schools that you are going to visit for your teaching practices. Face-to-face learning with the shift system. Online learning, of course, yes, we still implement online learning, but home visit, I'm not sure. So different school may apply different models of learning. Okay, so I just expect that you are ready to deal with those three types of model of learning. Okay, and then the good news is that, yeah, even though the ministry proposes what we call curriculum darurat, but schools can choose, number one, keep using the 2013 curriculum. So if the school don't mind to keep implementing the 2013 curriculum, they can just go on with it. Schools can also choose to follow the ministry, yeah, and use what we call curriculum darurat. Yes, it is allowed. Or, yeah, even the school can choose to simplify the curriculum independently. So again, I don't know which has been done by the schools, yeah, the place where you are going to do the teaching practices. So try to just follow, yeah, the policy of the schools. If they are using 2013 curriculum, yes, that's okay. You have known the form of the lesson plan, yeah, you have known the materials, yeah. If they are using the curriculum darurat, try to learn and follow it as well, yeah. I think you will love this because there is a reduction of the basic competence to achieve by the students. And then, yeah, it is even better perhaps, better for you if the students, if the school, sorry, has decided to simplify the curriculum. So the ministry gives the freedom for the students to simplify the curriculum to meet the needs of the students and also the situation of the schools. So yes, schools still have the freedom. So don't worry if you go to school. Okay, now what about the lesson plan? So you have the freedom to select, make, design, and develop the form of the lesson plan. So one page lesson plan is sufficient. So don't worry, you don't need to take too long to write the lesson plan. Yeah, so during the pandemic, I think your task is much easier. Yeah, in terms of the administrative tasks, I mean. Okay, so but you need to remember that the main components in the lesson plan, yeah, consist of learning objectives. So this is a must. You cannot leave this and write the learning objectives, yeah, with the measurable terms. Yeah, I often see students write like students are expected to understand. Yeah, students are able to understand. So I personally try to avoid the word understand because someone's understanding of a particular material is hard to measure. Okay, so remember about some important words, yeah, to state the learning objectives. Okay, and then the other components are learning activities and assessment. Try to state the learning activities which are going to be done by the students. Remember all of the basic principles, yeah, that we have just discussed in the previous slides. And the last one, you also need to state the assessment, yeah, for your students. You need to evaluate the students' performance, yeah, the students' learning, so that you know who have succeeded, who haven't, what can you offer to help them to master the materials. And then lesson plan writing is done efficiently and effectively so that you as teachers have more time to evaluate the teaching and learning processes. So again, why only one page lesson plan? Because it is expected that you are going to have more time to evaluate what you have done in your teaching. Yeah, you need to evaluate how students learn the subject. Okay, I think this is for the improvement of the quality of the teaching and learning itself. Okay, next. Yeah, I think for English teaching, I have some information for you. So from the reference that I read, there are some notes on the reading skills of the Indonesian student. So number one, 50% of the students our had been found to be unable to explain the main idea of the text. So if you are teaching readings, try to help the students to find the main idea of the text. Equip them with these skills. And still, those students were unable to see the coherence or link between sentences in the paragraph. Teach them how to write a coherent paragraph, coherent sentences. Yeah, try to help them to see the coherence or link between sentences within a particular paragraph. And then students were unable to explain the meanings in the reading text. I don't know whether this is perhaps because of the vocabulary mastery which is poor, yeah, or because of some other factors. I don't know, but try to focus on this. Yeah, you can help the students to master this. Okay, next, what about the task? Because you need to assess the student, evaluate the student's performance or mastery of a particular material. Then here I suggest you to include the task which requires student to be responsible. Yeah, to promote their responsibility as students. Yeah, try to involve them in deciding the types of the task. That will be okay. You can hear their comments, feedback, suggestion about the type of the task. Yeah, and because we are in the pandemic situation, you should not allow them to work together with friends. So give them independent learning tasks. And then, of course, because we need to teach them to be critical students, critical citizens, try to give the task which consists of high order thinking skills task. Okay, ask them to evaluate, yeah, to analyze, for example, not just to memorize. Okay, give them also the communicative task so that they can exercise their communicative skills. And then if you give them the task which is requiring the collaboration among friends or peer collaboration, try to create the task which can be done through online collaboration. Again, make sure you are not asking students to meet one another in the um, outside of the class or in their homes. Okay, so that's what I can share with you. Thank you very much for your attention. Feel free to ask me if there are some things which are not clear to you. If you need more information about the teaching documents, because of the limitation of time, I cannot share all, but I'm sure you are already and you have known much about the teaching documents. And again, the last one here is the list of the references or the bibliography that I have read, and some of the information that I presented to you are taken from these sources. Okay, so you can look at them if you need more information. Okay, if you don't have the file, I can send you. Just let me know if you need them. And again, good luck for your teaching practices. I wish you all the best. And yes, keep your motivation high. You have learned all the theories in the universities. It's time for you to learn and to practice at schools. It's time for you to be the real teachers. It's time for you to learn in the real teaching context. Okay? Try to be the best teacher for your students. Try to be a good model for your students and try to help them to learn better. Okay? Good luck. Thank you.